Shanti. Today I'd like to read from the Dhamapada. This is the fourth insert of the Dhamapada, which is the Buddhist scriptures, the ancient Buddhist scriptures dated from 100 AD to 400 AD. And they're called the Sutra, which is the text that claims to have been spoken by Buddha. The text that claims to have been spoken by the Buddha, called the Sutra. And here in the beginning they talk of the Tathagata. And the Tathagata is the title of Buddha. So when Tathagata is mentioned, it's the title of the Buddha. We're talking about the Buddha. And it starts, "Whosoever says the Tathagata comes, goes, stands, sits, or lies down, he does not understand the meaning of my teaching." And why? Because the Tathagata is called one who has not gone to anyone, and who has not come from anywhere. Therefore is he called Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one. Those who by my form did see me, and those who followed me by voice, wrong the efforts they engage in. Me, these people will not see. For if there had been any being set free from the Tathagata, then surely there would have been on the part of the Tathagata a seizing on a self, a being, a person. One speaks of a seizing or freeing of a self, but there is no seizing or letting go, for there is no self. Yet it has been seized upon by foolish common people. One speaks of foolish common people, but as really no people have been taught by the Tathagata, therefore they are called foolish common people. The way is perfect like unto vast space, with nothing wanting, nothing superfluous. It is indeed due to making choice that its suchness is lost sight of. I am, but I am not. I am as in being orchestrated. I am not as in this orchestration, a cause of effects. To set up what you like against what you dislike, that is the disease of the mind. When the deep meaning of the way is not understood, peace of mind is disturbed to no purpose. When you strive to gain quiescence by stopping motion, the quiescence thus gained is ever in motion. As long as you tarry in the dualism, how can you realize oneness? No offence offered, and no 10,000 things. No disturbance going, and no mind set up to work. The subject is quieted when the object ceases. The object ceases when the subject is quieted. When the deep mystery of one suchness is fathomed, all of a sudden we forget the external entanglements. When the 10,000 things are viewed in their oneness, we return to the origin and remain where we have ever been. One in all in one. If only this is realized, no more worry about that you're not being perfect. Whatever pours forth from the mind confesses the nature of the owner. Are waves different from the waters? Their nature, like space, is one and the same. Thought is pure when consigned to the forehead. Do not conceive differences in yourself. When there is no distinction between body, speech and mind, then the true nature of the innate shines forth. The fair tree of thought that knows no duality spreads through the triple world. It bears the flower and fruit of compassion, and its name is service to others. Two trees spring forth from one seed, and for that reason there is but one fruit. He who thinks of them thus indistinguishable is released from nirvana and samsara. not to be helpful to others, not to give to those in need. This is the fruit of samsara. Better than this is to renounce the idea of the self. Mindfulness, guarding of the senses. Here's someone having seen a form with his eye, doesn't seize on it, on its general appearance, or the accessory details of it, so that which might, so long as he dwells unrestrained as to the controlling force of his eyes, gives occasion for covetousness, sad, evil, possession, unwholesome dharmas to flood his mind. He needs to bring restraint. Likewise, when he has heard sounds with the ear, smelled smells with the nose, tasted tastes with the tongue, touched with the body, cognized mind objects with the mind, that is the guarding, defence, protection and restraint of these 6 dominants. Concentration, the 4 trances. Detached from sense desires, detached also from other unwholesome states, he dwells in the attainment of the first dhyana, which is accompanied by applied and discursive thinking, born of detachment, rapturous and joyful. From the appeasing of applied and discursive thinking, he dwells in the attainment of the second dharma, where the inward heart is serene and uniquely exalted, and which is devoid of applied and discursive thinking, born of concentration, rapturous and joyful. Through distaste for rapture he dwells even-mindedly, mindful and clearly conscious. He experiences with his body that joy of which the Aryans declare. Joyful lives he who is even-minded and mindful. It is thus that he dwells in the attainment of the third dhyana. From the forsaking of joy, from the forsaking of pain, from the going to rest of his former gladness and sadnesses, he dwells in the attainment of the fourth dhyana, which is neither painful nor pleasurable, in utter purity of even-mindedness in mindfulness. The 4 formless trances. By passing quite beyond all perceptions of form, by the going to rest of the perceptions of impact, by not attending to the perception of manifoldness, on thinking endless space, he dwells in the attainment of the station of endless space. By passing quite beyond the station of endless space, on thinking endless consciousness, he dwells in the attainment of the station of unlimited consciousness. By passing quite beyond the station of unlimited consciousness, on thinking there is not anything, he dwells in the attainment of the station of nothing whatever. By passing quite beyond the field of nothing whatever, he dwells in the perception of the station of neither perception nor non-perception. That's the soul-conscious state. That's me. It's the soul-conscious realization. The 4 unlimited. Here the disciple dwells, suffusing one direction of space with a heart linked to friendliness, then a second, then a third, then a fourth, then above, then below, around and everywhere. And so he dwells, recognizing himself in all, suffusing the entire world with a heart linked to friendliness and far-reaching and widespread and unlimited and free from enmity and malice. And as for friendliness, so with compassion, sympathetic joy and even-mindedness. End of quote. Spreads throughout the body, spreads throughout the mind, spreads throughout the heart, spreads throughout the community, spreads throughout the country, spreads throughout the world, spreads throughout the cosmos. Thought in vibration is compassion, even-mindedness. Unlimited friendliness. This is what should be done by the man who is wise, who seeks the good, and who knows the meaning of the place of peace. Let him be strenuous, upright, and truly straight, without conceit of self, easily contented and joyous, and free of cares. Let him not be submerged by the things of the world. Let him not take upon himself the burden of worldly goods. Let his senses be controlled. Let him be wise, but not puffed up. Let him not desire great possessions even for his family. Let him do nothing that is mean, or that the wise would reprove. May all beings be happy and at their ease. May they be joyous and live in safety. All beings, whether weak or strong, omitting none, in high, middle or low realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, near or far away, born or to be born, may all beings be happy and at ease and at peace. Let none deceive another or despise another being in any state. Let none by anger or ill wish harm another. Even as a mother watches over and protects her child, her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living beings, radiating friendliness over the entire world, above and below and all around without limit. So let him cultivate a boundless good towards the entire world, uncramped, free from ill will or enmity. Standing or walking, sitting or lying down during all his waking hours, let him establish this mindfulness of goodwill, which men call the highest state. Abandon vain discussions, having a clear vision, free from sense appetites. He who is made perfect will never again know rebirth. The four holy truths in wisdom. What then is the holy truth of ill? Birth is ill, decay is ill, sickness is ill, death is ill. To be co-joined with that one dislikes means suffering. To be disjoined from what one likes means suffering. Not to get what one wants also, that means suffering. In short, all grasping at any of the five skandhas, which is the five senses, involves suffering. What then is the holy truth of the origin of ill? It is that craving which leads to rebirth, accompanied by delight and greed, seeking its delight, now here, now there, craving for sensuous experience, craving for perpetual self-greed, craving for extinction. What then is holy truth of the stopping of ill? It is the complete stopping of that craving, the withdrawal from it, the renouncing of it, the throwing it back, liberating from it, the non-attachment to it. What then is the holy truth of the steps which lead to the stopping of ill? It is this holy eightfold path, which consists of right views, right intentions, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. There is the eightfold path, the 8 levels of the eightfold path, and the virtues, the 8 virtues connected to the holy eightfold path. Conditioned co-production. Conditioned by ignorance are the karma formations. Conditioned by the karma formations is consciousness. Conditioned by consciousness is name and form. Conditioned by name and form are the 6 sense fields. Conditioned by the 6 sense fields is contact. Conditioned by contact of feelings. Conditioned by feelings is craving. Conditioned by craving is grasping. Conditioned by grasping is becoming. Conditioned by becoming is birth. Conditioned by birth are decay and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness and despair. Thus is the origination of all this mass of suffering. But from the utter fading out and stopping of ignorance comes the stopping of the karma formations. From the stopping of the karma formations, the stopping of consciousness, from the stopping of consciousness, that of name and form, from the stopping of name and form, that of the 6 sense fields, from the stopping of the 6 sense fields, that of contact, from the stopping of the contact, that of feeling, from the stopping of feeling, that of craving, from the stopping of craving, that of grasping, from the stopping of grasping, that of becoming, and from the stopping of becoming, that of birth. From the stopping of birth comes the stopping of decay and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness and despair. Such is the stopping of all this mass of ill. The view of the self. What is this view of self? Here the untaught common man who does not see the holy man is unacquainted with the holy Dharma, is misinformed about it who does not see pious men, is unacquainted with the Dharma or the pious or misinformed about it, who regards 1, the self as form, 2, the self as having form, or 3, form as in the self, or 4, the self as in form. And so with feelings, perceptions, impulses and consciousness in place of form. The absence of self in everything. Form, brethren, is not the self. If this form, brethren, were the self, it could not oppress, it could not achieve one's intention. Let my body be thus, let my body not be thus. It is because the body is not the self, brethren, that it turns oppressive and that one cannot achieve the intention. Let my body be thus, let my body not be thus, and so with feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Now what do you think, brethren? Is form or any other constituent of the personality permanent or impermanent? Impermanent. Does that impermanence conduce to suffering or to ease? To suffering. But is it fitting to consider that which is impermanent linked to suffering and doomed to reversal as this is mine, I am this is myself? No, indeed not. Therefore, brethren, whatever form or whatever skandha, which is the five senses, whichever of the five senses, there may be, past, present or future, or inward or outward, gross or subtle, low or exalted, near or far away, all that should be seen by right wisdom as it really is. That all this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. The learned holy disciple who perceives this becomes disgusted with form and everything else, up to consciousness. Disgusted, he shreds his greed for these things. His dispassion sets him free, and he then also knows that he is liberated. Birth is extinct, the holy life completed. What had to be done has been done. There is nothing further to do. So he wisely knows. The illusory nature of the world. Form should be seen as a mass of foam, because easily crushed, feeling as a water bubble, became pleasurable only for a moment. Perception as a mirage, because delusive. Volitions as like the trunk of a plantation tree, because without substance, consciousness is a mock show, because deception. An artist once painted a picture of such a monster that he fainted, so endlessly worlds transmigrate by false ideas infatuate. As stars, a fault of vision, as a lamp, a mock show, dewdrops, or a bubble, a dream, a lightning flash, a cloud, so should we view what is conditioned. Clouds passing by infinitely. So we go to the origins and disputations. So, just as a man saw his sons had escaped from the burning house when he knew that they were safe and sound, that they were set free and that there was nothing to fear for them anymore. And when he considered his own great wealth, he gave them all just one kind of vehicle, the best kind. The Tathagata sees many millions of beings set free from the triple world, freed from pain, fear, terror and calamities. It is because they escaped by the door provided by the Tathagata is the title of Buddha, by the Tathagata's knowledge that they were freed from all pain, danger, calamity and vexation, and that they have won the happiness of a nirvana, which is, however, only provisional. In addition, the Tathagata thinks of his vast and abundant store of cognitions, powers and grounds of self-confidence, and he reflects that all these beings are his own sons, and so further leads them on to the final nirvana by the Buddha vehicle. But he does not urge anyone to win a private nirvana just for himself. On the contrary, he leads all those beings to a final nirvana, which is all-embracing, which is the Tathagata's own nirvana. And to all the beings who have been set free from the triple world, the Tathagata gives loving toys of the same kind. He gives them the trances, the virtues, the emancipations, and the transit containments to play with, which are noble and conducive to the highest happiness. And just as that man told no falsehood when, after holding out 3 kinds of vehicles, he gave all his sons just one kind of vehicle, a great vehicle built from the most precious substances, adorned with all kinds of ornaments, just as the best and finest vehicle of all, just so the Tathagata also has spoken no falsehood, when after first in his skill in means holding out the 3 kinds of vehicles, afterwards he leads beings to the final nirvana by the great vehicle alone. For the Tathagata, endowed with abundant store of cognitions, powers and grounds of self-confidence, has the capacity to exhibit to all beings the Dharma, which is connected with the cognition of the all-knowing. It is in this manner that we should understand how the Tathagata, with his consummate skill in means, demonstrates one vehicle only, the great vehicle, self-consciousness. And the more intelligent people have faith in the words of the Tathagata, who is the world's father, in their faith they apply themselves to the Tathagata's knowledge and make efforts to carry out his advice. Some of them prefer to hearken to the authoritative voice of a teacher, and by a thorough understanding of the 4 holy truths, and hope to win final nirvana for themselves. They are the ones who escape from the triple world in the expectation of the vehicle of the disciples, self-consciousness, and they correspond to the sons who ran out of the burning building in the hope of getting to the smallest of carts, those drawn by a deer. Others again prefer to strive for a cognition which brings self-discipline and calm, and owes nothing to a teacher, and by a thorough understanding of causes and conditions, pratyaya, they hope to win the final nirvana for themselves. They are the ones who escape the triple world in the expectation of the vehicle of the Buddhas, of the Bodhisattvas, and they correspond to the sons who no longer longed for the medium kind of carts or those drawn by goats. Others again prefer to strive for the cognition of the all-knowing, the cognition of the inner Buddha, the cognition of the self-existent, self-evident teacher, a cognition which also dispenses with the teacher, and by a thorough understanding of the Tathagata's cognition, powers and grounds of self-confidence, they hope to win the final nirvana for all beings through the Buddha eye, and for the sake of the many, for their welfare and happiness, out of the pity of the world, welfare and happiness of a great mass of people. They are those who escape the triple world of expectation. Seeing all this, the Tathagata thinks to himself, I am indeed the father of all of these souls, all of these bodhisattvas. It is I who must set them free from the vast mass of ills. It is I who must give them to the infinite and inconceivable happiness of Buddha cognition, which shall be their play, sport and amusement, their before, now and after. And he further reflects that if I, strong in cognition and magical power, but without skill in means, should promise to these beings the cognition and vision of the Tathagata, his 10 powers and 4 grounds of self-confidence, they will never set out for the sake of these dharmas, for they are bent on the 5 kinds of sense objects, and they are not yet freed from their fondness for the triple world, and they will continue to be burned, boiled, scorched, and tormented by the fires of birth and so on, before they run out of the triple world, which is likely a badly decayed house, all in flames. They cannot possibly understand what this Buddha cognition means. They are the house, the temple, as the man in the parable, without using the strength of his arms, induces by his skill in means these sons to go out of the burning house, and thereafter gives them the finest, gives them the truly magnificent vehicles. Just so the Tathagata, without using a Tathagata's grounds of self-confidence, powers and cognition, employs his skills in means coupled with deep insight to drive beings out of the triple world, which is like a burning house. And he holds out the 3 vehicles, the vehicles of transcendence to them, the vehicles of the disciples, the vehicles of the bodhisattvas, and the vehicles of the Buddha's eye. And with help And with the help of these three vehicles, he entices beings away from the world, and he says to them, "Do not, venerable sirs, be satisfied in this triple world, which is like a house on fire, with those ignoble, low and contemptible sight, objects, sounds, smells, tastes and contacts. For as long as you delight in this triple world, for so long you shall burn with a thirst which accompanies the five sense objects. You are scorched and tormented by it. Flee from this triple world. Reach out for the three vehicles of ascension, the vehicles of the disciples, the vehicles of the bodhisattvas, the vehicles of the Buddha. I give you my word on this point. I shall give you these three vehicles. Climb on them so you may escape from the triple world." And so as to entice them further, he says these vehicles, my friends, are noble, lauded by noble men and very lovely. Play, sport and amuse yourselves with the vehicles of ascension, venerable sirs, and that will be a high-class form of ascension for you. You will then experience the great delight of the cardinal virtues and the powers of the limbs of enlightenment, the trances of enlightenment, the emancipations and transit joys and attainments, and you shall find happiness and joy. And the more intelligent people have faith in the words of Tathagata, who is the spiritual knowledge. And then we have talking about the five skandhas again, which are the five senses, where he says, why then, if the word person means nothing but the five senses which form the range of grasping, did the Buddha teach the burden sutra, which says, I will teach you the burden, it's taking up, it's laying down, and the bearer of the burden. The five skandhas, which are the senses, which are the range of grasping, are the burden. Craving takes up the burden. The renunciation of craving lays it down. The bearer of the burden is the person, this venerable man, with such and such a name, born so and so, of such and such a clan, who sustains himself on this or that food, experiencing these pleasures and pains, lives for just so long, stays here just for so long, terminates his lifespan in just this way, is part of the herd. Or if a person were only another name for the sanskars, which is the five senses, if person and skandhas were actually identical, then the burden would carry itself, and that is absurd. So this is the sutra, that is this just a living form of the five senses in the five senses world? And you've just come into this vehicle and leave this vehicle. You think you're you, but are you not just the five senses? Are you not habiting a five-sense vehicle in a five-sense world? How can you be the vehicle when it decays and you leave it behind? And everyone knows that. How can you still think that you're you? You're the vehicle of the five senses. In the world of the senses, when you're driving this car of the five senses, you're not the car, you're the driver of the car. The car, conduced by the five senses, is the personality. The personality isn't real, it's conduced to the five senses in the senses world. You're behind the personality, deciding what to think, what to wear, how to talk, what choices to make in your life, what's your integrity, what morality, and a myriad of choices you choose to paint the personality. You sculpt the idea of yourself, which is the front person, the personality. Behind the personality in the car is the driver of the car, which is the soul, and the soul conscious state. So you're temporarily visiting a sense world in a five-sense vehicle, driving it around, turn left, turn right, sit down, stand up, now I'm hungry, now I'm not. What do I want to achieve? What kind of job and ambition? You know, it's for as long as you're attached to the five senses and the world of the senses, you think you are, but you're not, you're just visiting. Prove it well, you know, you will pass out of the five senses vehicle, so you're just visiting it. The idea of a personality is connected to the five senses, vehicle, which lays down in the garage and goes to sleep, and you're still experiencing. It's the soul conscious experience. So don't get trapped in the idea that you are the vehicle, because you're only the vehicle for a certain amount of time. But the you that's you is a permanent you. It's the soul. You're making up a pictograph dream of yourself every moment you're cognizant. If you go into soul conscious meditation, you're fully alive in the realization that you are the driver of the personality sitting in the seat of the car, driving it around every day, putting it in the garage, going to sleep at night, all its desires and needs by the senses through the needful heart. And it's in the soul conscious state that we fall in the heart instead of being needful. I hope this was helpful. Part 4, I think. Om Shanti.